Okay, we're back in Davos, where the World Economic Forum for 2022 is beginning to wrap up today for the year. Rise International Correspondent Adefemi Akinsanya joins me live from there now. This is beginning to wrap up today. What have been the standout actions across the week since we started?
If we go back to the beginning of the week, one of the standout sessions was definitely the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky addressing the crowd at Davos, and obviously virtually talking about what he needed in terms of financial and military support in its ongoing defense of the invasion by Russia in Ukraine. And along those lines, throughout the middle of the week, we did, of course, hear the European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen announced a 10 billion euro package in macro-financial support to Ukraine, which obviously is the biggest offer the European Union would have made to a third country on record. A massive announcement, but while the Ukrainian president would obviously be happy about that financial support, perhaps he too is looking at military support, more weapons and more fighter jets. And obviously that's not something that has been announced within that package, or doesn't seem to be likely going forward. But definitely Ukraine dominated conversations and sessions across the week, most especially when we talk about trade, which brings me to talking to the Director General of the World Trade Organization, Dr. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, did give us an exclusive a few moments ago, and she talked to us about the World Trade Organization's level of satisfaction on this, the last day of the conference. And the consensus is one of obviously looking at the fact that this has not been the greatest time for global trade, with now, as we're seeing, at least 22 million tons of food products stuck in the Black Sea area, unable to be successfully exported out of Ukraine and reach the global market. And then there's obviously been the effort the World Trade Organization has put to make sure that people do not panic, countries do not panic, and that hopefully would stem the possibility of prices spiking even higher than what we're seeing. And it's obviously, I'm using obviously many times, but it's clearly quite a grand task to do that, because different countries have different levels of needs. There are many countries on the African continent that are net importers of food, so any type of restriction, especially when we're looking at the massive restriction, are unable to come into the global market from Ukraine, that obviously has a knock-on effect around the world in terms of food, wheat. Many countries, Somalia feeling the brunt of that, unable to successfully take advantage of those products because they haven't been able to be released. And then there's also the issue of fertilizers, countries using those fertilizers to kickstart their own agricultural processes and efforts. That too under lock, as many people have put it, as it pertains to Russia, because Russia remains one of the biggest exporters of grain, of wheat and of fertilizers. So again, looking at what the World Trade Organization had to say, while it is undoubtedly a gloomy situation because of the ramifications of this invasion, Russia's invasion in Ukraine, there's still a level of optimism, being that she believes that trade is the ultimate solution to all of these crises. But then multilaterally putting together the interests of all of these different member countries is going to be far easier said than done. But if anybody is up to the task, you'd imagine that the Dr. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala would be the person for it.
Yes, Adefemi, can you tell us a little bit more about this accord that Pfizer has made with this announcement for a healthier world? What are the details that we have at this point in time, and what does it mean moving forward?
What Pfizer announced earlier on in the week is what they're calling an accord for a healthier world. And essentially what that means is that Pfizer will now sell its patent-protected medicines that are available, these medicines, out to the developing world without them making a profit from them. And there are 45 countries likely to reap the benefits of those, many of them, of course, in Africa. And 5 countries have actually already committed to adopt this accord in Africa: Ghana, Uganda, Malawi, Senegal. And that just shows that there is obviously interest and happiness towards this issue. But when we look at this accord in context, while Pfizer aren't expected to be making a profit, you can't expect them to be making a loss when it comes to selling these medicines. So then that comes in. So then that leads us to talk about pricing. How expensive are these products going to be? And you'll know that for quite a long time, especially off the back of this COVID-19 pandemic, there was a lot of pressure on Big Pharma to do the right thing, so to speak, and allow their patents to be shared that would allow developing countries to be able to develop vaccines and inoculate their populations at a far greater rate than what we've seen. That obviously hasn't happened. So while we can obviously commend Pfizer for what they've done and hope that other big pharmaceutical companies follow suit, this obviously isn't going to be a one-fits-all solution when it comes to addressing the disparities along health lines in the global south. You'll be well aware that it is low to middle income countries that bear the brunt of 70% of the world's disease burden, but they only receive 15% of the world's healthcare spending, a huge disparity. So this action by Pfizer goes some way to address that, but again, it's not going to knock out all of those issues. It doesn't actually directly affect the bigger problem at hand.
All right, thank you so much, Adefemi Akinsanya, for your daily briefing from the World Economic Forum as the meetings get to a close today. Thank you so much.